All right, so what you're looking at there is not some kind of alien creature. No, that is a tick. Yep, the same kind that you might get stuck onto your leg after walking through a field or the woods. And I'm sitting here in the College of Veterinary Medicine as part of the wildlife disease study with an expert on ticks and other bloodsuckers, and that's Dr. Chris Cleveland. Hey, Doc.
Ranger Nick, it's a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
So good to be with you. Thanks for spending time with me today talking about something like ticks. And I got to ask you, what about ticks interests you? Why study these? What's the value?
I think it's a great question. I think if you've been out in the woods in Georgia, you've been out in the field, chances are you've been bitten by a mosquito, bitten by a gnat, had a gnat in your eye, or had a tick crawl up your leg.
Right.
And so I think it's really important that we understand as much as we can about the ticks, but also every other sort of blood-sucking insect that's out there and how they're going to impact our animals, how they're going to impact our families, how they're going to impact wildlife. And so that's a lot of what we're trying to do with some of the work here at the Wildlife Disease Study.
And you know, the way that you're doing that is through innovative teaching. And I can't help but notice our friend here, your daughter, Daphne over here, is doing a wonderful job modeling this head contraption. What's going on here in terms of teaching?
You know, I have some amazing colleagues, Dr. Michael Yabsley and Dr. Anya Majewska here at the University of Georgia, who are working with the Educational Resources Center. And what we are doing are taking specimens from the field, going through a really fancy microscopic technique to create augmented reality and virtual reality images. And our whole goal here is to make these specimens that much more accessible from an educational perspective, right? So we can envision, like Daphne is modeling, taking a headset out to 4-H and putting these headsets and iPads on students so that they can actually manipulate and see the specimen up close and personal. And then we can couple that with a dissecting microscope and a live specimen. But the ability to see a tick in color, to manipulate and move the tick around is really important. We can understand then what is the tick that we found on us, what is the mosquito that's biting us, and encourage further retention or enrollment in STEM education across the grade levels.
And that's what I'm talking about, hooking students like Daphne, who's doing a great job modeling this, by the way, getting them excited about science. Ticks will tick you off, and we want to encourage folks to get excited about them and study them. So what I want to do now, we were talking about going into a lab. I want to go into a lab, talk about what happens with a real tick and what goes on to study them in that environment. Let's go there next. All right, so earlier, out in the field, dragging for ticks, the team of researchers actually found a few of them. We got them off of that piece of cloth, brought them into the lab, and lo and behold, I run into Taylor Pearson. Hey, Taylor.
Hey, Nick. So great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Taylor is a PhD student in the College of Veterinary Medicine right here at the University of Georgia. And Taylor, we've got this fancy microscope. We're inside of this fancy lab. I'm a little bit out of my element here. Talk to me about what are you doing once you get that animal? It's on this Petri dish. What are you looking at? What are you studying?
Yeah, so Nick, we are looking at key morphological features that are specific to each of these tick species. And so we're looking at things like the scutum or its hard shell here that you see on the back. Okay. We're looking at its mouth parts, how long they are, how short they are. And we use dichotomous keys to help us out with that. And so they come with lots of different pictures, and we're looking at different coxal spur sizes. We're looking at how many teeth are present, but we also take into context where we found this tick. Did we find it in Savannah, Georgia on the coastal plain, or did we find it up in the Appalachian corridor? So sometimes location can help us also determine species. But yeah, all we do, we take them down, we identify them to species, and then we'll put them in our tubes here. And then we'll take these tubes and cute little fellas, right? We'll take these tubes and we will do molecular diagnostics on them. So we will extract their DNA. We will get the tick DNA itself. We will also search for pathogens. So things like Borrelia burgdorferi, the causative agent of Lyme disease. We're also looking for Ehrlichia or anaplasmas, like different pathogens that can infect wildlife, domestic animals, livestock, and people.
And I'm wondering about that idea of the spread of some of those animals and the spread of that disease. And you all, from the location and looking at that animal, can tell a lot. And that's interesting. Now, what I'm curious about then is once we get that information, how do we help the public identify things and map where these animals are? And that's what I want to do next. So I'm going to visit a little bit more with you. I want to talk about what you at home can do. So let's go there now. All right, so if you're like me, you're walking around in the woods or out in the field at home, you walk through one of those nests of ticks, and maybe you get one of those lint rollers, and you lint roll off the ticks. And here's a lint roller sample with a bunch of ticks stuck to it. Or maybe you find an engorged tick on one of your livestock or a pet at home, might happen to have a fancy vial like this to put it in. what do you do with those things to take them somewhere to learn more about why they're there and maybe potential diseases associated with them? Taylor, what would you say? What do we do with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's off of your person, I would definitely recommend putting it in a little Ziploc baggie and saving it for a couple days. Watch out for any development of symptoms. And if you start noticing any fever, any chills, any malaise, definitely take it to your doctor. And that is good case history to know. As far as your livestock, you could probably take it to your county extension agent, and then they partner with the Southeastern Cooperative Wildlife Disease Study, or SCWDS, where we're at right here, to identify those ticks and potentially do any pathogen testing with it.
And what's so cool about that, again, involving extension in this, but being able to map where these things are and look at those, and that's the secret to some of the work that you're doing. I'm so grateful that we had a chance to meet together today. And I tell you what, this is one of those ones that you're going to want to check out the website that you see in there. And while you're online, checking out more about the Farm Monitor and the Ranger Nick Facebook page while you're on there. I can't thank you enough for what you did for us today. Thank you so much. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you right back here again, this time next month. See ya.